Team Toyota is leading the way with their new and pre-owned Toyotas right now. Their process is fast, easy, and it puts you in control the whole way. Just check out the reviews online. With locations in Langhorne, Glen Mills, and Princeton, visit teamtoyota.net and be safe, be strong, be a team. Hey folks, this is the Phillies Talk podcast, and we're at the All-Star break, but it has been an eventful few days for the Phillies. He's Jim Salisbury, I'm Corey Seidman, and Jim, the Phillies ended their first half in an improbable way by winning both series on their road trip over the Cubs and then the Red Sox, particularly challenging on Sunday when Aaron Nola was scratched before his scheduled start because of contact tracing reasons. Alec Bohm had tested positive for COVID the previous day, and the Phillies were then forced to place Aaron Nola, Connor Brogdon, and Bailey Falter on COVID-related IL. Crazy couple days for the Phillies. They ended it on a high note, but it also called into question what's going on with the Phillies and their vaccine percentage.
Well, we know they're not going to get to 85%. I mean, that's been pretty well established. A lot of people have talked about it. Joe Girardi says it's a personal choice, and it is a personal choice. And a number of guys have not had it in that clubhouse. So, yeah, it's risky business. You open yourself up to a potential shutdown of personnel. Like they had Sunday, they lost key players, including a starting pitcher, who's a very good one. But I thought they showed a lot of guts. That was a gutsy win. Finishing up in Boston, finishing up that trip with a victory, going through so much adversity in the hours leading up to that game. So, they should leave and enter the All-Star break with a good feeling, because that was a great trip to win 3 out of 4 in Chicago and 2 out of 3 in Boston. I know the Cubs are scuffling. I know they're a team going the wrong way, a team in disarray. But you can only play the team in front of you in the other dugout that particular night. You can only play who the schedule maker tells you to play. And they went in there and they swung it really well against that team. They pitched it well. Their only loss, their defense betrayed them behind Zack Wheeler. But you come out of there 3 out of 4. Heck of a series. And then 2 out of 3 in Boston. And to overcome that adversity on the final day. And, you're down to 3.5 at the break. And one of the things Bryce Harper talked about during that trip was putting some pressure on the front office to go out and help them at the trade deadline. And I think they've put themselves in that position. I know they're only 500, but it's a very winnable division. Somebody's going to win it. Somebody's going to get hot. Why not you guys? Why not the Phillies? Looks to me like they're already hot going into the break. Come back and try to build on it.
Yeah, it's by far the best stretch of the season that the Phillies have had this past week. They actually lead the majors in runs per game in the month of July. And dating back to June 1st, they're in the top 5 in the majors in runs per game, slugging, and OPS. So for a 6-week stretch here, the Phillies offense has been what many anticipated it could be in 2021. Ranger Suarez, I want to talk about him because what a gutsy performance he had on Sunday, picking up a 7-out save. It was the longest non-3-inning save by a Philly since Ricky Bottalico in June of 1995. It's the kind of save you just don't see anymore. Joe Girardi really rode him. He said that he thinks it's the longest that he's pushed his closer since Mariano Rivera in Game 6 of the 2009 World Series. But hey, Suarez has that stamina. It's one of the things that makes him, a pretty valuable reliever. And he seems like he's kind of seized this closer's role.
Well, he's not a traditional closer. This is a guy who's been a starting pitcher throughout his life, throughout his time in the minor leagues. I know a couple of years ago he worked out of the bullpen for the Phillies, did a good job, but he was developed as a starting pitcher. He was a starting pitcher in the minor leagues. I mean, he pitched a no-hitter in the low minors. So, and he had been stretched out previously this season. So that afforded Joe the opportunity to, like you said, ride him on Sunday. They needed that. It also, they could do that because he was going to have 4 days off, 4 days of rest. The whole bullpen was. So it really lined up well for him to come out there and kind of be the capper on that bullpen. You're right. He's a very gutsy kid. He was in the minor leagues. I remember talking to people about him in the minor leagues. And first thing people said about him was he's not scared. Sometimes to his own detriment. Really, this is when he was a young kid. He would maybe try to overdo it a little bit, try to, the cliche, stay within yourself. Maybe there were times when he didn't do that. But he certainly has learned to do that. He's not afraid of contact. He's not afraid to challenge hitters. He spots his fastball. He throws that slider, and he's got that terrific changeup. I wouldn't call him a prototypical closer by any means. I still wonder if his best contribution as a major leaguer is going to come in starting rotation someday. But right now, they need him right where he is, and he's doing a good job. Half the battle at closer is keeping your composure and being blessed with ample guts, I'll say, and he certainly has that. So he's attacking guys, and he's been a bit of a godsend for them down there. We think, we talked about Harper talking about putting pressure on the front office. They need to really go out there and add some relief help. I know it can be hit or miss at the break or at the deadline. We saw that last year. We thought they made decent upgrades, at least in terms of track record, and they all kind of blew up on them last year. It's really incumbent on them adding somebody that can help out late in that game, maybe even a lockdown closer. We know Kimbrel's out there. We talked about that on our last podcast. Who knows? But this team definitely needs help. On the pitching side, I don't think you can go changing the mix too much. So I think you have to ride that offense and hope that it's what you've seen here the last week, and go out there and maybe get a starter, maybe get a couple of relievers. I don't know how they're going to pull it off with a weak farm system. But like I said, it's a weak division. Somebody's going to win it. Why not you?
And it doesn't have to be Craig Kimbrel either. There will be cheaper alternatives. Like Ian Kennedy is almost sure to be traded by the last place Rangers. He's a guy who has closing experience. He could set up for you. You look at the Minnesota Twins, they're 11 games under 500. They have Alex Colomé, who's not even their closer, veteran that they signed. So, those guys like that in that tier are not costing you top-notch prospects. So wouldn't be surprised if the Phillies kind of went shopping in that route. The other guy
Colomé, you mentioned Colomé. He's a guy that, gosh, we've talked about him. Seems like every trade deadline the last few years. He was out there this winter. He might be a good guy to take a peek at. I think late in the game, it's very helpful to have experience. That said, they went out and got experienced guys last year, and it all blew up in their face. But you got to keep trying, and they're going to need some help in that bullpen. And they're also going to need the guys that they have. They're going to need Conrad to come back healthy. They're going to need Alvarado to throw strikes. Alvarado remains hugely important. I know he's not really closing for you, but he's hugely important down there. They're going to need Hector to have 2 good months in whatever role, whatever inning he fills. So, that's probably going to be make or break for this team again, that bullpen.
Alvarado has stunk lately. I know that, you talked about earlier in the season that, he's the kind of guy that because he can lose command of the zone can really break your heart late in the game. But lately he just has not been making competitive pitches. He's allowed, it's 17 base runners in his last 9 innings. He's been scored upon in 6 of his last 7 appearances. Just not a trustworthy option right now, no matter where Joe Girardi seems to be using him. But to your point, he remains a crucial piece of this bullpen mix, so he's going to keep getting opportunities.
He has to. Who else do they have? The ingredients are there in terms of the arm and the stuff. And the strikeout potential. It's just that, boy, he just doesn't throw enough strikes. I kind of hate to say this way, but you can really see why Tampa Bay made him expendable. You can see why the Phillies were excited about getting him because of the stuff in the arm, but you can also see why Tampa Bay didn't think he was reliable. So it's all kind of coming to roost, all the things we talked about in the offseason.
Well, the other development on Sunday was the MLB draft, which is taking place during All-Star Week. And on Sunday night, there was the first round. The Phillies had the 13th overall pick, and they came away with another high school pitcher, a high school arm in the middle of the first round for the second straight year. What can you tell us about Andrew Painter?
Big kid, 6'7", 230, strong body, big fastball, and secondary stuff that is all very good and very projectable. 18 years old, from the Fort Lauderdale area. Played in high school with Joe Girardi's son. So Joe put some eyeballs on him over the years, likes his character and his makeup, but that's not the reason they picked him. I hear people saying that. They just, you don't make a buddy pick in the first round, maybe in the 20th round or the 40th round in the old days. But so this kid was long projected to be a first rounder. In fact, Baseball America, they did a mock draft, I want to say in January or February, and they nailed it. They had Painter as the guy. And I suspect it's because the Phillies were all over him last summer, all over him again this spring. Hey, I know high school pitchers are the riskiest demographic in the draft. A lot can go wrong in the development process because for most of them, the development process is, 3, 4, maybe even 5 years. But I like the pick. I subscribe to the belief that you take the guy that you think is ultimately going to be the best big leaguer, and if it takes him 2 years to get there, hey, that's great. But if it takes him 4 or 5, but he can still have a terrific career for you, I think you take that chance. So this guy projects to be a top of the rotation starter, but a lot has to go right in the development process, and it also has to stay healthy. But 2 years in a row, under Brian Barber, the new scouting director, he's been here 2 years. He's not been afraid to wade into that risky demographic and take high school pitchers. Last year, Mick Abel, 6'5" right-hander, power stuff. This year, Andrew Painter, 6'7" right-hander, power stuff. If all goes well, you might be looking at 2 future studs at the top of your rotation. I know there's a lot of ifs, but the ingredients on both of these guys are really, really good.
Yeah, and Mick Abel seems like he's off to a very hot start for Clearwater. He has 58 strikeouts in 38 innings. And, the Phillies have to feel good that if these two guys developed, they could potentially be like the centerpieces of the rotation 5 years from now. I personally always love when you see the reactions from people on the night of the draft that are like, why'd they take a shortstop? They have a shortstop. It's like, well, these kids are years away.
Yeah. And shortstops move all the time, move off their positions all the time. Why'd you take a high school kid? Because, their job is to project. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong. And when you get it right, you might get an awfully good one, right? So no qualms with the pick. I actually like the pick. I really like the pick. I get the vibe that their scouting staff or that, that their priority in this draft may have been the outfielder Benny Montgomery from York County, PA, compared by a lot of people to Jason Worth, compared to Hunter Pence, rangy, tall outfielder, blazing speed, power potential, another high school kid. And I know they liked him. Apparently he was in for a workout at Citizens Bank Park last week and really turned heads, but he went off the board, I think number 6 to Colorado. And maybe it was number 8. I'm not sure, but so he goes off the board, and a big right-hander and Painter, who I think they like just as much as there. So I like the pick, and to me, it's like it's a little like a 401k. You make sure it's being handled the right way, and you kind of don't pay attention to it a little bit. Let the people who are supposed to pay attention to it, the instructors, then the coaches, and I would look at it as a 401k, right? And then, 3 years down the road, I'd be like, okay, this kid, might be knocking on the door here. Might be getting his feet wet in 4 years, might be a big stud in 5 years. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with him arriving when he's 22 or 23. I'm okay that he's not arriving overnight. I'm okay with trying to get the development process right and develop a quality big league starter that can pitch 8 to 10 years in the majors. So I'm really on board with these 2 picks. And who knows if they'll ever get past AA. But I love the ingredients, and I love the commitment to big, power-armed pitchers who have feel for secondary stuff, who have clean deliveries. I just don't want carnival arm throwers. These guys are guys with big fastballs. Their fastballs are their calling cards, but they have 4-pitch mix that are getting better. So they are 100% pitchers. They're 100% pitcher. Going to take some time, but you just go out and get a lot more. I'm a big fan of getting a ton of arms in because it takes a whole bunch of them to just get a few to the big leagues.
Well, the Phillies' first-round pick from 2019, Bryson Stott, the middle infielder, was their lone participant in the Futures Game Sunday in Colorado. What's your sense of the type of impact that he might be able to make? Does he seem like he's going to be able to hit enough to be kind of a top-of-the-order guy? or might he be more of like an on base guy who can bat seventh or so?
Well, he's definitely an offense first guy from everything I hear. Shortstop, he's played, I think, exclusively shortstop since he got to Double A. That said, there are folks out there who've watched him a lot, and that's what I rely on. People that I trust who've seen him a lot to think he's going to end up at second or third. There's some questions about maybe his ability to stick at shortstop in the big leagues, but a lot of people like the bat. It's a left-handed bat. It's a strong bat. Gap to gap, gap power, home run power. And he does a really good job with the selectivity at the plate. There was a point when he got moved up to Reading from IA, where I think he was leading organized ball or minor league baseball in walks. So he's selective. He's got good plate discipline, and with a guy like that, a guy left-handed stick, they can hit too, or they can hit if he develops more of a guy who drives the ball, he can hit down in an RBI hole. I think from everything I've heard, and just deferring to people whose eyes I trust, he's going to be a big leaguer, and he's going to have a big league bat. It's where he ends up playing, and a lot of that is up to him on where his quickness is and his defensive ability, and just how he continues to emerge. But it seems like he's on a pretty good path, especially offensively.
Yeah, Stott, once he was promoted to Double A, got off to a hot start. His first 95 plate appearances, he hit 300 with a 400 on base percentage. Kind of slumped over the last 2 weeks. Jim, what did you think of Max Scherzer getting the nod as the all-star starter instead of Zack Wheeler, who has 20 more innings and a lower ERA and more strikeouts? Kind of surprising, but Scherzer gets the nod.
I think there were probably four guys you could have went with here. Walker Buehler, Marquez of Colorado. Scherzer, I think Scherzer gets it because he's really good. He is having a hell of a year. Maybe not, in some categories he's right there with Wheeler, but as you mentioned, not in others. It would have been cool to see Zack Wheeler get that start. I certainly think he would have been deserving, but it seems to me this was almost like a deserved lifetime achievement award for Scherzer, and he's backing it up in the National League. It's with a 185 opponent's batting average. He's fourth in strikeouts at 134. I mean, Scherzer's fourth in ERA, second in strikeouts, and holding it batters to a 206. So they both have dazzling numbers. This is not, nobody's throwing Scherzer a bone here. It's not like he's taking a farewell tour, because I'm sure he has more good, several more years in him. I think he's 37, but it's going to be his fourth All-Star start. And I think he deserves it. Dave Roberts kind of alluded to that what the guy's done in his career, he thinks he deserves it. I have no qualms with that. No problem with that. Also, there was no All-Star game last year, and Scherzer's team, the Washington Nationals, won the World Series in 2019, and you would have seen Scherzer maybe start if they had a game last year. So I think it's completely reasonable. I think it's completely understandable. And Scherzer is completely worthy, both on the season he's having in 2021 and in his career and his track record. That said, it could have been Buehler, it could have been Wheeler, it could have been German Marquez, and possibly even others. It does not in any way diminish what Zack Wheeler has done for Zack Wheeler this year, for his career, and for the Phillies. He's been their MVP. He's been tremendous. He's been a great pitcher. It's fun to watch him pitch. Tremendous competitor, and he's right in the thick of that Cy Young race. And he'll pitch. I'm sure he'll pitch an inning in the All-Star game, and he has a chance to go out there and dazzle, regardless of what inning he pitches in. Starting would have been a nice feather in his cap, but I think coming back in the pitching inning in the All-Star game and having a good inning, and then maybe coming back and helping the Phillies get to the postseason for the first time in a decade, would it be even a better feather in his cap, and then staying in that Cy Young race right till the end. So no problems here with Scherzer. I mean, I remember watching Scherzer start the 2013 All-Star game. I think it was 2013. in Citi Field. He was pitching for the American League, and we didn't see him a lot, covering the National League all the time. But man, he was electric that night. I remember he was like he was like 97 with his fastball and 77 with his curveball, all within the same at bat with a 20-mile-an-hour differential, and he was great. So again, no problem. He'll put on a good show, and so will the other guy, Shohei Ohtani, who's going to be the starting pitcher and bat in the lineup. So that's going to be pretty cool too. The modern day Babe Ruth.
Yeah, Ohtani hit a ball the other night in Seattle. I was watching it live because I was lucky enough to pick Ohtani up the first week of the season in fantasy baseball. So I've been watching all those games and loving it. And he hit a ball 463 feet at Seattle. I think it was the farthest ball ever hit in that ballpark. It just makes this is a cliche, I know, but it makes a totally different sound coming off of his bat. And watching that press conference from Colorado, there's a lot of fanfare over Ohtani, but it's because we've never seen anything like this in our lifetimes. And it's not just that he's pretty good at pitching and pretty good at hitting. It's that he's already like the best hitter, one of the best hitters in the American League. And I saw like Lance Lynn of the White Sox had some things to say. Lynn has a 1.99 ERA and way more innings than Ohtani. But I mean, there are little kids who are watching baseball right now just because of Shohei Ohtani. And that's what the All-Star Game's all about, right?
Yeah, it's all stars. This guy is maybe the star of the sport right now. So and part of the reason he's the star of the sport is he's such a dynamic and productive two-way player. Why not showcase his two-way skills? I love it. I'm looking forward to seeing him swing it in the home run derby. They'll have those balls super wound. Those balls will be wound tighter than a car spring. I mean, they talk about how hard the balls are the regular season. They will be harder. They'll be really like cue balls tonight, and they won't be sitting in that humidor out there. They will be like, they will be jumping like Super Balls. Remember when you used to bounce a Super Ball on the street? They'll be like those. And then in that thin air, in Coors Field, they converted the right field upper deck into, it's like standing. It's like a bar up there, I guess you'd call it, and people can mingle up there, and there's, people can go up there and watch the game from the upper deck. I wonder if he's going to hit one up into that upper deck and land in somebody's beer cup. That would be amazing.
A sight to see. Well, it's the week of the Home Run Derby and the All-Star Game. The Phillies are back at it on Friday. They pick things up with the Marlins. They have the easiest second half schedule in the majors statistically. So we'll see if the Phils can make a charge here. They're 3.5 games behind the Mets at the All-Star break. Thanks for listening all during the first half, and we'll pick things back up on Friday. He's Jim. I'm Corey. Catch you later in the week.